Here.
Martha Similaro, Commissioner. Here. Noted Catherine Carter is absent this evening. Ruth Damsker, Commissioner.
Here.
Sandra Zidell, Township Manager.
Here.
Megan Weaver, Assistant Township Manager.
Here.
Nicole Fight, Township Solicitor.
Here.
Isaac Kessler, Township Engineer.
Here.
David Duffy, Chief of Police.
Here.
Van Reeker, Zoning Officer.
Here.
Also noted Dave Brill, Finance Director, is absent.
Thanks, Deanna. Nicole, would you like to make an announcement of our executive sessions?
Certainly, Vice President Hall. The board has not met in executive session since their last meeting, and so I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Next up, we have the public comment and concern section of the meeting. If you would like to make a public comment about anything, if you would like to make a public comment related to the WB Homes land development proposal or the sidewalks or anything related to that, now would be an ideal time to do that. Thanks, come on up. Just come to the microphone and say your name and your address, please.
Good evening, and thank you for acknowledging me. I am Shonda Irons Brown at 1127 Canterbury Drive, and I just would like the records to show that I'm objecting to this sidewalk at the Wheatley Walk. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Allison Cardamone, 1156 Canterbury Drive. And as Shonda mentioned, we are also in objection of the proposed sidewalk between Sumneytown Pike and Canterbury Drive as part of the Wheatley Walk proposed land development. We are against the sidewalk, and we just wanted to reiterate that for the public record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Jim McMullen, 1163 Canterbury Drive. Just wanted to express my dissatisfaction and against the sidewalk tying in Sumneytown Pike to Canterbury Drive. It really, from our standpoint, would really serve no purpose and would be detrimental to the development. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Good evening, Patrick Gavin, 1155 Canterbury, here as well as my neighbors to just voice our objection to the Wheatley Walk, which would connect Sumneytown Pike with our development more directly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Great. Hello? Yoon?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Did you want to say your name first and your address?
My name is Yun No. I'm at 1167 Canterbury Drive.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm here to, on the phone, to say I am against the sidewalk proposal. It actually is connecting my house and Patel's, and I do have small children who actually play in the cul-de-sac, and we don't think there's a good reason to have extra foot traffic in our neighborhood, and also, you know, potential any additional, I guess, you know, issues that might come with my children playing in with additional people walking through, you know, the sidewalk that we are against.
Okay. Thank you, Yun.
Yeah.
Do we have anybody else? That's it. Okay. Now I am going to turn it over to our wonderful manager, Sandra Zidell.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Excuse me. So at this point, I'm going to go through some of the items we have on the agenda. And the first, we will be holding a public hearing on August 17th, which is next week, for the board to consider the R2 residential district side yard amendment to our zoning code. So I think we've talked about this previously last month when the board made a motion to advertise this ordinance. So does anyone on the board have any questions about this change? No? Okay, perfect. Oh, technology is failing me. There we go. Okay, so our second public hearing, which is very exciting, that we'll be having on the 17th, is for the board to consider adopting the comprehensive plan. As you know, we've been working on this for over 3 years. There's been an awesome resident committee of volunteers along with the county, with some of the commissioners and our assistant manager, Megan Weaver. It's been reviewed by the County Planning Commission. It's been reviewed and posted and publicly advertised. So it's ripe for consideration before the board. For the residents that are in the room, it is on our website if you're interested in reviewing it. And it just has our community vision through 2040. So it's very exciting. Does anyone have any questions? I keep saying things are exciting, but there's nothing quite as exciting as the coyote presentation we're going to have in a few minutes. But first, I want to tell you about PICO. So lately we've been getting a lot of calls and complaints about PICO. So there's sections of the township where PICO doesn't mow. There's sections of the township where PICO may be doing line work and big construction projects. And I just wanted to take a moment, and I'm glad there's so many residents here, to just do a PSA that we really can't control PICO's projects. I can't make PICO mow a meadow that they don't want to mow. They're not like any other, entity. They're not like a private company. They're our energy provider, and so they have certain rights that are given to them by the PUC. Some of their larger projects can be annoying for neighbors. Right now they're doing a project in the Flintlock section of the township where they're restoring a ton of lines and making them lines that are thicker and more able to withstand storms to help, make our electrical service more able to withstand storms. So it's usually good things that they're doing, but it is a temporary inconvenience. But I definitely sort of just wanted to let people know we have very little control over what PICO does. And if residents are having concerns, they can absolutely reach out to us and we can try to help. But usually that's just getting information. It doesn't always really turn into any big change. So I like to sort of tell the board about things that are coming up a lot from residents. And that's why I wanted to talk about PICO. Did anyone have any questions?
How many projects are happening right now in our township?
Just one, but it's a project moving all the way through the lines. It's a 6-mile PICO line where they're doing improvements as they move through. So they might just be in one neighborhood for about 3 weeks and then they keep moving down the line to do the line improvements. But while they're doing work, they're parking in the neighborhoods, there may be porta potties in the neighborhoods.
Yeah, which is not attractive.
Right. But like I always say, the alternative is more unattractive.
Yeah,
So
not
a porta
having
potty, yeah,
Right.
or a porta potty.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
And it's temporary, it's all very.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's temporary, yeah. Okay, the most exciting thing that's going to happen at this meeting is Jerry Check is going to be doing a presentation. He's the state game warden, and I think he's out in the hallway. But we asked Jerry to come to the meeting tonight because we have had, as you may have seen in the news or seen maybe with your own eyes, quite a few coyote sightings in the township. And it's causing a lot of residents some distress. But we asked the game warden to come by to tell us like the real truth about coyotes and if they are super dangerous or not super dangerous, and exactly which animals they might be dangerous for. So Jerry will be joining us. Here he is now.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
That's okay.
Oh, darn. Well, Jerry, I already talked you up as the most exciting thing that's going to happen in this meeting.
Well, it might not be too exciting. Might just be, it looks like it might work.
Okay.
When I graduated the academy years ago, they gave us a typewriter and I didn't have a cell phone. Now we have all this stuff.
That is the most hardcore laptop I've ever seen. So you can tell you're out in the field.
Supposedly you can run it over with the truck.
I think if a coyote tried to bite that, the laptop would
I
survive.
never tried to run it over.
Jerry, would you like a chair?
No, I think,
You all right?
yeah, okay.
Well,
Thanks.
We have Eastern.
You know what, Jerry, if you don't mind, can you grab that microphone there so everyone can hear you from home? Perfect.
if you want. You can shuffle it.
Okay. Oh, perfect. So I can drop it at the end?
Just like I do.
Okay. Okay, thanks for the invite. Evidently, I guess there's been some complaints or people calling the township about coyote sightings. Coyotes are in every township, in every county in Pennsylvania. So it's really nothing to be alarmed about. Hopefully after this presentation and maybe if you learn a little bit about them, you really don't have to be too worried about them. We have 20,000 bears in Pennsylvania and they're not eating people every day. So I know it might seem, we're not afraid of them. I know when you see one in your backyard or it's eating your chickens, of course, you're going to be afraid of it, or if you have little kids, but they're nothing to really be afraid of if you know a little bit about them. So I'm just going to breeze through this. I can surely come back at a public meeting or if there's other issues at a different forum. So I'll try to just breeze through this pretty quickly so at least people can see what they look like, etc. That's basically what a coyote looks like. People call them coy dogs, brush wolves. They're not wolves. They're much smaller than wolves. The wolves are basically their cousins, but we don't have any wolves in Pennsylvania, at least wild wolves. If somebody has one and basically lets it go, could there be a wolf in Pennsylvania? I have worked Philadelphia County basically for 23 years, and I've had alligators in Philadelphia. I've had monkeys. I've had wolves, hybrid wolves, all kinds of stuff, but we don't have wild wolves in Pennsylvania. They're found throughout the United States and Canada. That's another one. In Philadelphia County, we have them. They're at the Northeast Airport. There's a pack of them that live at the Northeast Airport, which is a huge property in Northeast Philadelphia that's basically an airfield with some businesses around it. They get hit by a car once in a while, but otherwise they're not too much of an issue there because they're not really bothering any people. They kind of stay on the airfields and control the groundhogs and the small rodents and things like that in that area. They come, basically a female can be 30 pounds to 40 pounds and a male can be 40 to 50 pounds. The males are slightly larger. They're not quite like wolves where they don't travel around in packs. You may see a few of them at once when they have, in the springtime when they're having babies, and it's not really a pack of them, it's just a family group. They can be anywhere from gray, brown, black. Basically, that's the color they are, but they have different, the variety of colors that they could be. That's what, sorry. Go back. That's what basically a footprint would look like. Obviously, it's a little bigger on the screen, but it's if you have footprints, people have footprints a lot, and they'll say they're lions, tigers, bears, whatever. Any canine, and basically a coyote is a canine, usually we'll have the toenails marked in the footprints. Okay, if it's a cat, generally the cat does not have its toenails or its claws extended unless it's fighting or something like that. So when a cat's just walking, you won't see the toenails up there. So some people say they saw, a cougar, and then we show up and we get that's not a cougar, or the footprints left behind weren't cougar footprints, or mountain lions. It's pretty hard to see right in the center. You see the red arrow. There's a track there in the mud. That's its cousin, and that's a fox. I'm sure you probably see lots of those around. Foxes, in comparison to the size of a coyote and a fox, foxes are about 8 to 12, 14 pounds. They're basically big cats, and a coyote is a small German Shepherd. You may see this. These are in forested areas. This is a gray fox, very similar in size, but that could look like a coyote to you. But that, once again, that's going to be the size of a cat versus the size of a dog. Okay, so people see these, they're around, but they're few and far between around here. They like more forested areas. And then the footprints are similar, but they're smaller in size if you measure them. So if somebody says they saw a coyote, and we can get some tracks, if we measure them, look at them, we might be able to say, well, that wasn't a coyote, it was a fox. I'm not doubting you do see coyotes here. I'm sure you do. I'm sure the residents are correct in saying that they're seeing them, because if I have them in Philadelphia, I'm sure you have them here. I mean, as a matter of fact, I know you have them here. The coyote basically goes around, it's an omnivore. It'll eat anything from, it'll take down a deer. A fox won't be able to take down a deer. A fox will maybe get a fawn, but coyotes will take down full-grown deer. If you see a carcass of a deer and the rear end of it is eaten out, basically, the butt, basically, foxes come and they'll scavenge on that, and then they'll move on. If the carcass looks like it was torn apart by piranhas, that's a coyote that did that. So a lot of times people will say, hey, look, the coyotes were eating the deer, and if you look at it, I'd be able to tell in a minute whether it was a coyote or a fox that was eating it. Basically, they're going to eat birds, they're going to eat berries, they're going to eat grasshoppers, they're going to eat anything that they can get their hands on. If you have chickens in the township, you know, if you live, your chickens run wild, or your cat is an outdoor cat, if the coyote and the cat come across each other, they may take that if the opportunity exists. I'm sure people have the chickens eaten by foxes around here if you have people with chickens. Do you have many farms here? I just
We
took
do,
over.
yeah. We have a few farms. We have Del Val University has a large farm property
Okay.
here, and then we have the Gwynedd Preserve, which is like a large.
All right, I'll talk about the Gwynedd Preserve. 'Cause
Yeah,
there's some
that's where
false-
there were
Right.
coyotes, like confirmed a family in the spring. Yeah.
I just took over parts of southern Montgomery County, so I'm not too intimately familiar with some of the townships and what they have around. So that's why I just asked. Let me see if I can get back.
Oh.
Okay. That's what they'll eat. Basically, you see up at the top, some berries. They'll eat the berries. The roadkill deer there on the top right, that's a sheep. If people have sheep, coyotes will come and kill the sheep, and then they'll come back and they'll feed on it night after night if it's not removed. And that's in the very early stages of a coyote attack on a sheep. If you can see right there by the head, a coyote is going to typically chase it down, grab it by the throat, kill it, and then eat it. Your typical house cat there in the middle, and then the various rodents and deer and grasshoppers is things that they would feed upon. That's its scat. If you were to see it, it's different from dog scat. Scat is, well, you can see what it is. If you look at, a lot of people will, maybe they don't see the coyote, but they're seeing it, or they say, hey, there's remnants left over. Dog scat is not going to have hair usually in it, because coyotes and foxes are eating things with hair and berries. So I can look at the scat and tell you it's a fox versus a dog, or a cat, or excuse me, a dog versus a coyote or fox. And they like to go to the bathroom where other animals are going to see it. So that's why they pick a rock there. I mean, they'll go to the bathroom pretty much anywhere, but a lot of times they like to mark their territory or their sign to say stay away. And when I was over at the Gwynedd Preserve, there was a lot of that around. You walk around, you could see the coyote scat over there. It's another spot, wintertime, just so you can see what it looks like. Another just picture of a coyote. But basically, I was saying that they'll mate in January, February. They don't really have any predators. The only predator they would have is a bear in Pennsylvania, and bears don't eat too many of them. Basically, humans are they're at the top of the food chain. So the only predators they have are humans. They're getting hit by cars is one way they're going to get killed. Our hunting regulations say that you can, if you have a hunting license and you're hunting them or trapping them, you can only trap them during trapping season, which is basically October to February, but you can hunt them 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Jerry, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you, because the trapping idea is something that residents have called and said, like, why don't we trap them and take them away? And so thank you for sharing that. I'd just like to say, like, the township has no animal control abilities. We can't trap animals. So it's interesting to know you can only trap them a couple months per year. I'm sure you can trap them.
When I say trapping them, I'm talking about hunters trapping them to kill them for their fur.
Right,
The
yeah.
fur is not like it used to be, where you get a coyote or you get 20 coyotes and it would, you get $50 for their pelts. The fur prices are down, so people aren't doing that they really do it for money, but it's down. So the people that trapping them.
But does the Game Commission, even the State Game Commission, have any reason to trap coyotes?
No, we do not trap and remove nuisance wildlife. Where are we going to put it? First of all, if we say, are we taking these from Lower Gwynedd? Upper Gwynedd, do you want them? Cheltenham, do you want them? Nobody else is going to want them, right? So they're wild animals. They just roam around. Now, if they are sick or injured, that's another thing.
Right.
You can call the, most local police departments or state police, depending on where you're at. You have your own police department here. If something's sick or injured, where you go outside and it's walking in circles, or maybe that coyote was hit by a car last night and it's like by your deck or by your tree and it's got injuries and it's not moving, or it's not, it's injured. You can see it. Usually you see it, it's gonna run away. Obviously, we want to come out and put that critter down so it doesn't hurt somebody or so it doesn't suffer. Police departments can do that, park rangers can do that, or we can do that. I'm one guy that covers half of Montgomery County and all of Philadelphia. So I can help you shortly, but it might take me a little while to get here.
Yeah.
Like I said, the residents, in the hunting situation, we don't encourage residents. You can't just go out back and sit on your deck and shoot them because there's safety zones and houses around. But if you're hunting them, there's liberal season, so that helps get rid of them.
Right.
The Gwynedd Preserve does have a hunting program with deer. They remove deer, and their hunters are encouraged to remove coyotes if they come across them. Not real easy to come across or find. In the beginning of the year, or when they have their babies, of course, they're going to be a little more, I don't want to say aggressive, but they're going to be a little more protective because they have babies. If you go near their den. And that's what I think happened at the Gwynedd Preserve, that when we got a couple calls about that, it was that time of year. The people were walking their dog, whether you should have your dog on a leash, you can control your dog, because if your dog's running ahead of you and it runs over toward the coyote den, then the mother and father coyote are going to protect their young. So if your dog gets eaten or attacked, then that's kind of your fault because you didn't have your dog on a leash or have it controlled. And that's basically when they become, I wouldn't say aggressive, but they're going to be more protective of the area where their young are. You're also going to see the coyotes more in the spring because they're not just feeding themselves, they're feeding the 4 or 5 young that they have. So instead of them just being out at night when you're all sleeping, they're going to be out 24/7 trying to find food for their 4 babies or 5 babies. So a lot of people will see them, and that's the same time we saw them at Gwynedd Preserve, or people were seeing them. People reported that at the Gwynedd Preserve when they were walking, the coyotes were following them, which would be typical if you were near my den or you were near my house. I would come out and say, what are you doing here? I'm going to look at you. I'm going to try to get you to go away, because if you keep coming closer, I'm going to get a little aggravated because now you're near my den and the babies.
Yeah.
Just like a bird would protect its nest. Of course, a bird is not like a coyote, but oh, I'm sorry. They prefer, forested areas. I'm sure you have this throughout your township. They prefer the grasslands and farmland. Pretty much any habitat. Like I said, I have them in Philadelphia, so if they're living in Philadelphia, see, there you go. That's a perfect example. One right there in a resident, in a city or urban area. There's a coyote. See it right there sitting on the tombstone? And then this particular picture was taken from Chestnut Hill College, running across the lawn there. So there's a coyote out in the middle of the day in Philadelphia. There's another one in Philadelphia on a trail camera that a hunter caught. And there's one that says 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but that was 1:22 in the morning. I live in Cheltenham. I hunt an area. There's a golf course in Cheltenham Township, and I've had 4 or 5 of them on my trail camera eating a dead deer. So like I said, they're everywhere. Another picture one. In 2016, about 25,000 coyotes were harvested by, it's the last stat I looked up, was about 25,000 of them in Pennsylvania were harvested by hunters and trappers. So if there's 25,000 being harvested, you can imagine how many are actually out there. And that was reported. All hunters don't report what they get. That's another one at night. Like I said, they can be hunted 24 hours a day, 365. Most people will go out and they'll hunt them at night. They have a light on their firearm, which is usually like a .22 rifle, and they'll make a distress call from some kind of injured rabbit or injured wildlife. The coyote or the fox comes looking for that, and then the hunter has like a green light or red light on the gun. It illuminates the eyes, and that's how they predator hunt. That's the trapping I'm talking about, where the animal gets caught, its leg gets caught in the trap, the trapper comes by and then finishes it off, sells its pelt or hangs its pelt up, whatever they do with it. So when you're talking about hunting and trapping in your township or whatever, I'm sure you get deer hit by car all the time. These folks that, if you allow them to hunt in your yard or your farm or your property, it's a good thing. It's helping control the deer population. Those hunters are gonna use a bow and arrow or a gun, whatever you could use here, what your township rules are, and they're gonna take that deer and use it. rather than it getting stuck up on a fence or whaled by a car on one of your highways here, and then people get injured. Same with the coyotes. If somebody says, hey, can I trap a couple coyotes, and you allow them to do that, it's just helping, I wouldn't say your issue, but helping control wildlife populations. They are susceptible to mange. If you look at that one on the left, it basically looks like it's going through cancer treatments. I'm sure you see foxes like that. And in a normal canine, you can take it to the vet, give it some ivermectin, some shots or pills, and that'll, if you catch it early enough, your dog will be fine. In wildlife populations, that doesn't happen. It happens when there's an overpopulation and helps get rid of some of them. It's kind of terrible because they end up getting, they have scabs on them, they itch, they transfer it to other ones in their dens. So it's not a good thing, but there's no treatment for it in the wild. It's basically they'll end up dying eventually, and they kind of look like they're going through chemotherapy, if you see that on the left. There's some of the numbers that we have. You live in the southeast, so that number on the bottom, you can always go on the web and put in PA Game Commission. We have wildlife notes on our website. It's a note that tells you everything you want to know about a coyote. And that's a beautiful coyote. So hopefully you won't have problems. I hope you learned a little bit about it. And if you have issues or problems and see them, you don't need to call the Game Commission if you see a perfectly healthy coyote running through the woods. We know they're out there, but if they're causing a problem or an issue or injured or sick, definitely call your local PD or police, or excuse me, or the Game Commission to come out and help you with that sick or injured animal, obviously.
Jerry, can I ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely.
So you said that if the coyote is feeling threatened and they're protecting their young, that they will try to appear intimidating, and they will come across as more aggressive. They will move towards a person. Will they actually go all the way, will go completely through with that? Would a coyote ever attack a person or jump at a
Yeah,
person?
absolutely, I'm
or-
sure it would. It depends on that person. Most people, when they see that or the coyote starts following them, they start walking away.
Right.
If I would imagine if you say, oh, really? And want to walk towards it, at some point, you're going to start fighting.
Okay.
I mean, if you're going to walk towards its den, if it comes out and it shows you itself,
Right.
most people are going to say, okay, I'm going to continue walking down the trail and go away from here. And it's
Okay.
when it follows you, generally it might follow you for a little bit. Just say,
Right.
okay, I'm chasing you away from where I don't want you to be.
Right.
That's usually in the spring.
Right.
Okay.
Which,
Or at any time, like if I come
Okay.
out on my deck at night and there's a bear,
Yeah.
I mean, usually the bear's gonna see and run away.
right.
But if you wanna see how close you can get to the bear, that, at some point, the bear's gonna, not be happy.
Is going to attack.
The moral of the story is if you see a coyote, walk away from the coyote.
Correct.
But the coyote is not going to like leave the preserve and then take a stroll down the street and then see a child and attack a child.
Typically, no.
Okay.
Could it happen? Of course, anything could happen. I don't wanna say that they don't, but I mean, they're not strolling around Lower Gwynedd looking for babies to eat. They're afraid of you. But could it happen? Of course, I mean, and they're not gonna stay on the preserve. They're on that preserve because it's a huge, I don't know how many acres it is, but it's several acres of woodland where they can be and they can be left alone. Are they strolling through your neighborhoods in the middle of the night? Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure if you look on the Ring camera website and hit wildlife, there's all kinds of stuff that's caught on Ring cameras at night in your yard that you don't know what's going on at 2 in the morning. They're looking for food, they're going through. I mean, we have bears come down at this low. We've had bears into Philadelphia. So
Okay.
could it happen? Yes. But I've been around for 22 years and I've never had a person bit by a coyote.
Okay.
That's just me in my area. And I have Philadelphia, but
Okay.
so I wouldn't be like walking around. The last thing I'd be worried about if I walked around Lower Gwynedd or Cheltenham or Abington is a coyote issue. I wouldn't be worried about a coyote coming after me. We're more worried about like somebody picking my pocket or, Usually
Okay.
they're gonna run away. But if you want to stick your head in their den, I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
Or you see if they have pups, maybe if you
Yeah.
see that they have a couple pups,
Right.
you definitely don't want to, try to get close and pet one or use your camera to, I would kind of stay away from them.
Okay.
Jerry,
Yes.
is there a rabies issue with the coyotes?
Not right now. I mean, there are dogs, they are canines, so they could
Okay,
have,
rabies, okay.
they could get rabies. Any mammal could get rabies. We're seeing a lot more rabies in raccoons, foxes, bats. 90% of it's in raccoons. But could a coyote have rabies? Yes. And that's one that would probably be standing in your backyard, growling at you, looking at you, saying, I'm not moving. And when that happens, that's when you want to call the police and say, listen, there's a coyote in my yard. I walked out twice. It's standing there just looking at me, and it's not leaving. Most of the time, as soon as you open your door, they're out of here. I mean, how many people here, how many of you have seen a coyote in your township? Okay.
Mine's in
So-
a different township. But
Okay. Well, okay. Well, I mean, it's very rare. I mean, I worked in the woods all kinds of hours, and I don't see very many of them. I hear them a lot in different areas, but I haven't seen too many. And I'm out there 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but you know what I mean. Yes.
Are they all nocturnal? I mean, Jason,
Generally, they're nocturnal. Yes, but when, like I said, in the springtime, when they're looking
The
for
babies?
food, foxes. Excuse me. We get all kinds of calls in like, I don't know, April to like June. For everything. The deer, there's a fawn in my yard. Oh, it's because all the deer just dropped all their babies. All the raccoons just had babies. So people are seeing and running into wildlife a heck of a lot more in the spring because that's when they just dropped all their babies. Okay, so the coyote, you may not see them. They could be out any time of the day because we're in such a populated area where they're going to be disturbed. So just because you see if I see that coyote right there during the day, I got no worries about that. It's not mangy. It looks perfectly healthy. It's just out during the day. Now, if that thing looked like it had half its hair missing, it's foaming at the mouth, walking in circles, I'd be concerned because that shouldn't be out during the day.
Time to
But
call the
generally, they're
police.
nocturnal.
You should call the police then.
Well, police or us, right? I don't want to keep putting everything. I can feel the chief looking. I mean, if it's sick or injured, just, you don't have to call us to say that, a coyote ran across
Right.
the field.
does anyone else have any questions for Jerry? No? Thank you so much. That was so informative.
So much.
Really
It was
appreciate you
great.
coming to our meeting.
Okay. And then, like I said, if you need me to come back at a future issue or time or whatever, just.
Well, hopefully, I think
got
we're
my
through the
contact
spring,
information.
and I think that there was some puppies in the spring, and that was,
Oh, absolutely. That's what was going on at
Yeah.
Gwynedd Preserve.
yeah.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
I don't want to drop it for real. Anybody here have questions? Or is that okay or no?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
sure.
they're good. They loved it. Yeah. Van, I'm so sorry that you have to follow the coyote presentation.
Talking about boring,
Planning and
following,
zoning is
exciting.
like half as interesting as that was. Do you have any cool pictures of wildlife?
I have some jokes I can tell.
That's okay, Van. We can stay to the script tonight.
Absolutely. That was very, very informative. I see fox a lot in my yard.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you, Sandra and members of the board. Looking at my report, item 15, and I want to call attention to those of the neighbors on Carmichael that are still present. I say that the Jeppe property is now a weekly walk. It's working its way through land development, and it was tentatively scheduled for an August meeting. That meeting has been canceled. We have it online, but I want to make sure you all know about it. And it will be likely heard September 14th before the Planning Commission. Have you all heard that already? Oh, okay. And really nothing new. It's the same plan you all have seen for 2 years, except it's in the engineering and final engineering phase of it. Are there questions about that? Because I know a lot of you are here tonight. Yes.
Is the proposed sidewalk tied to the land development application, or is it a separate entity?
No, it was a convenience, we thought, as township staff, since the comprehensive plan is, one of the goals of the comprehensive plans is to increase walkability in Upper Gwynedd. It looked to us as an opportunity to have an applicant, a developer, pay for a sidewalk extension. It was really going to be a connection between the cul-de-sac and Town Pike. And so that's how the conversation came up. And some of you who were present that night, I think we all said, gee, probably said call Denise, because Denise was here. Sorry, Denise. But
Fine. Always call Denise.
Call a
It's fine.
commissioner or call Sandra or come out, because we did want to understand how you felt about it. It was part of connectivity. The purpose of it was to help Canterbury Drive folks walk to your commercial neighbors. That's how we saw it. I'm not saying I'm advocating it or not, but that's how the idea was began back in the day.
And Van, just to clarify, that is part of the land development plan. That was part of the land development process. It's not its own process.
Yeah, it is.
It is now included in the entire Jeffy Carmichael Weekly Walk Land Development application?
It is not. It was a conversation we asked the developer to have with us and with the neighbors. So it doesn't show, to my knowledge, it does not show as a proposal.
I don't know.
We asked that it be clarified. It had been discussed by
Yeah.
staff informally.
It would officially be part of the land development plan if it was approved. On the day the whole plan was approved, if that sidewalk was going to happen, then it would be officially part of the land development plan on the day when it's approved by the Board of Commissioners. But that is still many months away.
You're waiting for the survey results
Yes.
before any further land development process or procedure takes place?
Well, I think we asked for a due date for the survey, and the next time that this project will be on an agenda is the September agenda of the Planning Commission. And I think that, to be honest, I think we're pretty clear on what most of the residents think about the sidewalk. So I'd be shocked if we got some different result from the survey.
Right.
So yes, we will have all that information before the next meeting.
Yes, because that'll be September. So yes.
And part of a land development process, they have their proposed development, the 17 townhomes. And then any development that comes through the township for review, there'll be elements that are coordinated with the township, whether it be stormwater issues in a surrounding area or sidewalk connections that could be, connected if there was a gap. So that's where this sidewalk was brought up for discussion. So if those items are pursued or if they're determined to not be favorable, that's part of the land development process. And then those are ironed out as it moves along towards a final plan.
Chandra?
But with the property, when we looked at the plans, there was a fence along the 17 townhomes. Is that still enforced because with this sidewalk?
Yes.
I mean, it makes sense to have a fence and then have a sidewalk next to it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ensure that that fence is still going to be.
Yes. We're still talking about having the fence. Yes, the fence is still in play.
So I was just gonna point out that we should probably repeat the
Liz is on the
questions
phone.
so that the people can hear, people participating via the web.
Yes, Commissioner McNaney? Yes.
Oh,
Is she lost?
Commissioner McNaney, did I say what you were gonna say? Or are you gone?
I'm here, I just
Oh.
want to hear the questions, that's all.
Yeah, we'll
Oh,
start
sorry.
repeating them
I
for
was
you.
just gonna
Oh,
say, I
sorry.
hear questions.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's a good point. We're just getting used to
No,
having
that's
it,
okay.
we're just getting used to doing this hybrid, having it all virtual. So everything that we say, we have to say it in a microphone. Otherwise, everybody who's virtual is missing half of it. So that's my fault for not making sure you did that. If anybody else has any other questions, did you
No,
want to
it's all
come
right.
to the microphone and ask? Does anybody else have anything they wanted to ask Van?
I think probably we're able to reiterate our questions already.
Okay, great. Okay, sorry, Van. Thank you.
Okay, so next, shops at Gwynedd, conditional use was approved by the board last month. The next time you see it, you would be involved. It converts into a land development application from conditional use with the conditions, assuming they agree to the conditions imposed by the board. They will then process a land development application. It will be reviewed by the Planning Commission, by staff, by Isaac, and maybe in 2 or 3 months, you'll be seeing it again as a land development. 2816 Morris Road, this is a report, simply an informational report from Worcester. They had asked, and we had provided contacts for residents living within their 500-foot notification range. And it's about a sober house proposed on the Worcester side of Morris Road. And that was approved by their zoning hearing board, subject to a list of conditions which they have sent over and we can make available. But basically, they have to abide by all their zoning and building codes and provide assurances for suitable sanitary sewer and things such as that. The next three are zoning hearings, actually, we have a few more. So 1601 Clearview Road is one that has been heard and granted already by the zoning hearing board in July. 676 Gage, both happen to be for sheds in the front yard, as it turns out. They were all approved subject to the plans and the mitigation measures that were testified to before the zoning hearing board. 676 Gage Lane, same type of application, also approved with the condition, and I should hasten to add, many of you know this already, that applicants come with a plan, with a proposal, with a photograph of what the sheds are going to look like, where they're going to be located. And with that information, the zoning hearing board then will evaluate the application, the appeal, and in those two cases, they were approved. To be heard in 2 weeks will be 449 Forest Lane, and that is to permit an in-law addition outside the building envelope and a variance into the front yard. Forest Lane is a corner lot along Hancock. So this would be on the side of the building that is adjacent to, or in the Hancock Road front yard. So that would be a kind of a multiple variance to be heard August 2 weeks from tonight. So I guess it's the 24th or tomorrow, 24th. Next is the Ordinance 2021. You've discussed that already. That's the text amendment to the R2 district to account for non-conforming already built R2 lots that were built before there was an R2 district and are obliged to comply to current R2 standards, but in many respects can't because of their non-conforming relative to size. So this text allows a minor extension for patios, decks, and detached garages into the side and rear yard. And then finally, ZHB 2113 McAllister's, it's actually a special exception to permit, and sorry, it says off, but it's all, but it says it's an off-premises sign. And they wanted to have built a sign that complies with the dimensional criteria in the I district for visibility. He located it in such a position that it requires approval by the zoning hearing board. His approach will be, and I think it's a good one, to ask for, we'll see how the zoning hearing board feels about it, but I'm confident that it's a fair-minded approach, is to ask that it be considered as a special exception under the billboard provision in the ordinance in the I district that would allow the sign to, at really a much larger size, which he's not asking for. So that will also be heard in 2 weeks. Further questions? Thank
Thanks,
you.
Van.
Oh, Jim, would you come to the microphone and ask your question, please?
Jan, as it applies to 2021-03, does that apply to all of the township?
It only
The
applies to
change of
R2.
the, I mean, is it only for new developments? Is it a change in the planning process if someone has moved forward with a plan that includes 50-foot setbacks and 25 on the side? Can they then change that to 40 and 20?
So the answer is it's for existing non-conforming lots. So they all have to pre-exist. They have to have been built already, and they have to have been built under the prior to an R. It's specifically, the text specifically exempts the applicability of an R2 built lot or a PSRD lot for that matter. Only applies to R2, not to R1 or to R3. So they, to your question, they exist.
Okay.
They're not conforming, and they would have to comply with the undersized requirements of the code.
But it's an existing facility.
Well, typically they would be, if there was a vacant lot that pre-existed, they would qualify. There aren't many, if any.
But it would have to be an R2 vacant lot.
It had to be an R2. So
You know the reason for my question
I don't know the reason for your question.
is the Jeppy property. Because they
It's,
were,
fine, but they were subject to a variance approval with conditions, and so they would not be eligible.
okay.
It's for single-family lot. Now, just for explanation, those who are listening in perhaps, it applies to the few sections of such as Rexdale, north of the borough, and then such as Ivy Lane, Elbow Lane, lots along Marlin's Lane, Kathy's Lane, Sandings Lane, which would be on the east side of North Wales Road, and east of the borough along Town Pike, such as Royal Avenue, upper and lower Valley Roads, Britt Roads, places like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Van.
Thanks, Van. Isaac, would you like to give your report?
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. For the engineering report this month, we wanted to highlight a few things as usual. This month, we wanted to give an update for the road program for this year. The ADA ramps have been completed. Those ramps are all finished at this point. And the milling and paving operations are underway. So if you've been out on Broad Street since yesterday, that road is currently milled. Moyer Road will be, or Moyer Boulevard, I should say, is scheduled to be milled tomorrow. A bit of an update to what's in the agenda here tonight. And the reason it was bumped up, that one is one we definitely wanted to do as soon as possible with the milling and paving. The reason we thought it was going to be later were the storm sewer repairs that will be done for that road as well. And one of the agenda items later this evening is the lining of those pipes compared to, we thought we'd have to cut and replace them, which would be to dig them out. And if that was the case, we were definitely going to do that before paving the road for this final product. So with the lining, that can be done without disturbing the roadway. It's done between the inlets and between the manholes. So we're able to pave it before that's done. So Moyer Boulevard is scheduled to be milled tomorrow. The tennis courts here at Parkside Place are scheduled for Wednesday to be milled. And you'll most likely see that milled stage for about a week. Right now, the latest schedule from the paver is to start in that same order with Broad Street next Monday, Moyer Boulevard, and then the tennis courts, and they're also doing some paving at the Public Works Yard. So we'll continue to keep everybody up to date on their schedule, but that's the latest information we have as they move through the contract. The North Wales Road Trail Crossing Improvements Project is one we're also very excited about. The highway occupancy permit was approved by PennDOT. That's typically one of the larger hurdles for a project like that is a PennDOT roadway. So they have their comments for the signals and signage that they want to be included with that. And that's to improve the pedestrian crossing of the Wissahickon Trail, the Green Ribbon Trail across North Wales Road. The project itself, now that's been approved by PennDOT, that permit is a year-long permit. So we're working with the township staff to determine the best time we can go and actually do that work. Probably be early next year to get that signage and signals up and running. And finally, I wanted to mention the MS4 program. It's the time of year where we submit our annual report to the DEP, let them know all the great things that the township does and the requirements that they set forth, how we meet them each year. And I did want to just highlight the mapping that's a part of that, how it kind of overlaps with a lot of other things we do as a township. The stormwater mapping allows us to identify areas of where the pipes and all the streams connect. So when there are stormwater issues, Megan Weaver and I often go out to meet with residents and look at issues that involve stormwater. We can look at the mapping as well, see what areas are actually draining to those spots. If there's an issue with pollution coming through the system, you can locate kind of the origins of a lot of the issues. And that is something that we benefit from with a up-to-date and good standing MS4 program that allows us to address a lot of those issues more efficiently. It also lets us identify projects for stormwater that we work on each year with the budget and kind of make most use of where we locate these stormwater projects so they have their biggest impact. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions tonight if anybody has.
Any questions? Okay, moving on. Oh, sorry, come on up to the microphone if you don't mind. Everyone watching at home wants to hear your question.
Question. I understand in regards to the North Wales Road Trail crossing,
Can you say your name and your address again? Thanks.
Allison Cardamone, 1156 Canterbury Drive,
Thank you.
which is great because there's nothing crossing there. Are there any plans to do on the other side, on the West Point Pike side, the entrance that trail connector that goes into the park and then connects through? Right now, you can't cross, there's no crossing at West Point Pike. And there's no sidewalk on that side. You're walking on the Merck side, and then you have to cross in the middle of the street, the street. Are there any plans to put some kind of pedestrian crosswalk there?
Well, I'll say this project in particular focused in on the North Wales Road one with the PennDOT coordination, and also with the trail itself, we have to work closely with the Wissahickon Trails. So we can continue the conversation and take a look at West Point Pike as a next spot to try to improve some crossing elements there.
I do think that section is part of the Liberty Bell feasibility study trail. So I think that we are looking at that in one of our feasibility studies. I can't recall if it's not near the power lines. It's Liberty Bell, I think.
Liberty Bell.
Yeah, I have to memorize the maps in my head. So I think that will be reviewed because there's several crossings, and I know that the train tracks are there before you get to that, right? And so there's a lot of complications with that crossing at West Point Pike, make it a little more complicated, but we are looking at it.
Yeah, because it's great that there's an entrance there. But
Yeah,
right now you're just
hard to
running-
access.
You're just running across this,
Yeah.
dodging traffic across the street.
Right. Yeah, we don't want people to have to do that, so.
I don't want to cause a traffic accident.
Yeah.
Come out. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else? All right, so we have our staff department reports in the packet. I'd like to move these to the consent agenda for the next meeting, as well as the meeting minutes from July 12th and July 20th. At your next meeting, you're going to be asked to vote on the advertisement of some amendments to the HRC ordinance. This is our Human Relations Committee ordinance. As you know, we created this new group last year, and through the first few months of the group being together and the committee working together, we met with the PAHRC, and they just made a couple suggested improvements to our ordinance, that's what you see here. So that'll be a motion to advertise. Any questions about that? In Commissioner Hull's section, the first item, number 21, can be moved to the consent agenda. It's a waiver for some crane operations on Sundays, unless anyone has any questions about it. Also, next meeting, you'll be considering a revised record plan for Merck for building B50. This revised record plan came about because they wanted to expand what was previously approved by, I think, 3,000 square feet or so. Right, Megan? Yes, 3.8% increase in what they had originally received approval for. So that will be coming to you all for an amended approval. We have an escrow release for DeLuca. Did we put these on consent agenda? Yes, so that will go to consent agenda. I meant to check that earlier, and then I must have gotten stuck doing something else. We also have an advertisement of ordinance 2021-04 for the traffic ordinance. This was suggested by the chief and the police department a couple months ago at Oakland Place when you come out to Sumneytown Pike, that there would be a sign there that says no blocking the intersection, because when Sumneytown Pike gets backed up, people block Oakland Place, and then the Oakland Place people can't get out and see to make the turn. Any questions on that item? There would be a payment to Alan Myers for the road program, the first payment, which is exciting because it means things are happening. We have done a ton of ADA ramp work throughout the township. And there are a couple races that people are looking to have. I love seeing this again in our parks. So the first is the Home at Last 5K race, special to my heart because that's where we got Ginger, my Husky Lab mix. So they come and do this pretty much every year for the past 6 years. And they're looking to do that on Saturday, October 30th. And then there's the Walk the Wissahickon event on Sunday, September 26th. Those have both been reviewed by the Park and Rec Department and the Police Department. Carnival parking. Maybe they're, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Is the payment to Alan Myers being placed on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, and the races?
I forgot to ask you. I forgot to check, but yes, we should put that on the consent agenda. I think the races should not go onto the consent agenda. That's my opinion, but it's at the board's discretion.
No, that makes sense because they're individual. They're
Yeah, events,
individualized.
yeah.
It's great to give them a little extra attention anyway.
Yeah, right. So carnival parking contract with Merck will be up for consideration. The carnival planning is well underway. I spoke with Sarah, our Park and Rec director, about it today. I picked my shifts for the ticket booth, which is one of my favorite. Megan and I love to work in the ticket booth at the busiest times. So much fun. As usual, we'll be looking to have a parking agreement with Merck that makes it easy for people to visit the carnival. And now for your only decision of the evening, as Isaac reported earlier in his engineer's report, we do need to execute an agreement with the storm sewer pipelining company. They're SWRP. Love that name. I don't know, Ruth. I think that's actually like the name of the company. I'm going to look at it, but let's see.
It is. They're the
Sewer and water evaluation and rehabilitation procedures. SWRP.
That's a mouthful. SWRP is
Yes,
better.
SWRP is definitely better. And they are a CoStar's vendor, which makes it great, easy to move forward as it's already been publicly bid and evaluated through the state process. So Commissioner Hull, I'll turn it over to you for a motion.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Are there any public comments? No? Are there any board comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Great, and I should point out, I love to point out cost savings when I have a room full of residents. So if we were doing this project the traditional way of digging out the pipe and replacing it with new pipe, the project could cost upward of $1 million. So we're really saving some money here, and we're hoping to look, Willard and I were speaking today about future projects. There's a lot of reasons why this pipelining is a really good idea, to not disturb the neighborhoods, especially there's a lot of neighborhoods, older parts of the township, where the storm pipe is under sidewalk and people's driveway aprons, and it would be just so much better to do this process instead of the dig out the pipe process, which is a lot more labor intensive. Okay, Martha, super exciting. We have a lot of payments happening in the wastewater treatment section. So there's four different, basically there are just four different payment applications, all for the well, all except for one. Two are for the hydraulic expansion, one is for the emergency repair, and one for the force main and pump stations project. These all have to occur via roll call vote, so they're not appropriate for the consent agenda. And just as another update, we're getting very close to being finished the wastewater improvement project. So we have been testing the flow. We've taken small amounts of flow just to make sure everything works before we fully turn it on. And hopefully that'll be happening in September or October. And then the last two items are the open and paid invoices.
Great. Thank you, Sandra. Sure. Does anybody have anything else on the board they would like to share? Martha, Ruth?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Martha?
You just want to give the dates for the carnival? Everybody's aware of them? That's
Sure. It is September. I just want to make sure I get the first day.
September 9th through the 12th.
Yes.
Fine to it.
I will be in the ticket booth on the 10th, but I will be there lots of other times.
Excellent. I just wanted to mention that the last concert we have this year in the park is this Wednesday, and it is the Grease Band, which is a very popular band. So check our website, check our Facebook page to make sure it's happening because we have tricky weather sometimes. Also, I would like to make an announcement for our library, the North Wales Library. They are two things I just wanted to say about them quickly. We already know that they're a great library, but this is the 4th year in a row that they have received Gold Star status. So that is quite an accomplishment, and we're very proud of them. And also, I was talking to Jane, the librarian, and she said that they are looking for help at their front desk, at their circulation desk. She said that's the most popular place to work because that's where you get to talk to all the residents and you get to check out the books and give people directions. So if you're interested, please apply directly to the library. And with that, we are adjourned.